Hi there, it's Mrs. Hosick. Today we're going to be painting this beautiful field of poppies. It's a photograph taken by my sister. So today I'm using bristle board. You could do it on a canvas or a masonite board, project panel. I'm going to be painting my sky first. I've got a paradise blue. You could use like a cerulean. I'm using Dollar Store paint, Dollar Store acrylic. I'm using a sponge. Sponge always works a little bit better when it's wet. And I'm going to paint this color blue. All right, so we're going to do a dabbing situation with our paint here. I can go right over my edges. And I'm going to come right down close to the bottom because this is a worm's eye view. You are looking up from the ground through the poppies into the sunshine, into the sky. So the poppies will end up being a little transparent. We're not doing necessarily realistic poppies. Like I said, it's more impressionistic. We're not going to have all the fine little details. This could be done by kids or adults. You want to try this as well. Just need a little more paint here. And we're just going to continue down here. While my paint is still wet, I'm not going to clean my sponge. I'm going to come in with a bit of white on my sponge. Notice I've got some of the edges cut off because I don't want those ragged edges, or those jagged edges, sorry. So I'm going to start doing some clouds. My blue is still wet. I'm just kind of dabbing in there. I'm not worried about getting really bright clouds yet, because we're going to add as we go to get some brightness. I want to make sure I'm leaving some of the blue sky obviously in the background. Try not to swipe across because we want to see a cloudy sky. All right, don't overmix. Now I'm going to add a bit more white, dabbing a little bit brighter. I've got a little more paint on my sponge, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to dab kind of like the tops of some of these. I'm very lightly putting some brighter edges in. I'm not even looking at my picture because I don't want to do exactly the same way. I just want you to get the concept of this nice cloudy sky with the poppies in front. All right. So I've got this nice muted color, plus I've got this nice brightness of the white of the clouds. All right, I'm gonna pause for a second. All right, I run art camps for children, ages from 5 right up to 14, 15, plus I teach adults. And so I like to develop projects that both adults and children can do. So I take some pictures and simplify them, and you can make them the details you want. What I'm going to do now, because we have a dark shadow behind our grass, we're going to take our sponge with a bit of black on it, and we're just going to dab in the bottom part here. With my students, I would do this step by step. My children would do the same thing. My campers, all right? And I'm just gonna come up a little bit farther, not too far, because we don't see a lot of the darkness shadow behind. All right, that's probably enough. I've got a little bit of the blue showing through, and that's perfectly fine. All right. Now, what we're going to do is start adding some of the texture of the greenery. But I do have to get this part dried first before we get into our clouds. So I'm going to dry this first. All right, I'm ready to start adding some texture of greenery in here. So what I've got is I've taken a bit of the dark green that I have. I'm going to be using a paper towel to actually do the painting. I'm not going to dab very hard into my picture because I don't want a big blob. So I'm going to get some of my green paint on here. Okay, you can see what I've done here. And I'm going to dip a little bit of it off. All right. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to very lightly come in here and start to put in some greenery. I don't care if I see every leaf and every stem coming up into my sky a bit. I want to create a dark green. First, we're going to build up from the darks to the lights. Bring a little bit of white in there on my palette. And again, I'm not looking at my picture because I don't want to necessarily do exactly the same as the picture had. All right, you can see how I've created the bit of the field there. All right, I think I'm going to go a little higher on this side just for a little more interest instead of just going straight across. All right, I'm not going to clean my towel. I am going to actually go to a lighter green. You could either do that by maybe adding some yellow to the green you already had, which is what I think I will do. So that's going to create another green. If you happen to have a whole bunch of different greens, that would be fine too. All right, so what I've done here is I've put a little bit of yellow in my green. I'm just going to mix it up with my finger. All right, so now I've got a lighter green. And if it doesn't mix completely, that's actually even better because then you have some different colors going on. I'm going to dip in here and I'm going to go over what I've already done very lightly. I'm starting to build up more colors. Okay, I don't want to cover my dark green totally, but you can see I started to get a few little random other colors in there, right? I'm going to go even lighter. I happen to have this really nice kind of a limey green, or you could just add more yellow to what you already have. Again, I'm not going to clean my towel because look what happens. I get all these beautiful different greens showing up in there. So I've dipped in there with the dark green that I already had on there, and I'm going to add even more. I'm turning and I'm very lightly touching to get some more of that nice limey green. If you wanted to add stems, you could, but I am not going to because we have enough texture going on here. I'm not going to add all those little buds either. It's just kind of neat. You've got this beautiful mixtures of green going on. All right, we're ready for our poppies, but this needs to dry first before we can do any poppies. All right, we're ready to start our poppies. Now, we can't do directly the orange or the red color poppies right on top of this because we don't want to have the green showing through. So what you need to do is you need to actually base coat a white first. So what I'm going to do, and the shape of the poppy is almost like a bell, an upside down bell. So what I'm going to be doing is taking white paint, and I'm going to be painting the actual poppy, the shape of it, before we do any color. All right, so if I was to put, let's say, a poppy up here, let's pretend like it's a bell. And I'm just going to paint the basic shape of a poppy. It could have a little bit of a wavy edge like this. But I want to paint all my poppies white first to get rid of that green background. All right, so we could have maybe one up, maybe here, maybe it's a little more closed. So it could be more like this shape. All right, a little more rounded on the edge. All right, or maybe you could have one that's actually even more open. I'm going to put one down in here. So it's a little more flatter on the bottom. Little dips there. And notice I'm painting toward the center or out toward the edge like that. You want to paint the direction that it grows. All right, so I'm going to paint a bunch of poppies here in white and let them dry, and you'll see when I'm done. All right, so there I have the shape of my poppies. So this is the bottom right here of my poppy, the bottom here. You can notice there's some are kind of going sideways, some are going this direction. I even have a few that are kind of bleeding off the edge here. There's like a half one over there. So these have to dry before we can put our color on. Now I actually did two coats on this because I want to make sure they're nice and bright so that the orange or the red color is nice and bright as well. All right, ready to start adding some color. So I'm going to be using a bigger brush because I'm doing a bit of base coating. I'm going to be using orange and more to the yellow side. I'm going to take a bit of my orange and more yellow. So it's a nice lighter orangey color. And I'm going to actually treat this almost like watercolor. I want to get this kind of liquidy. all right? Because the back petal is what we're going to be looking at, is a little more transparent, a little more brighter. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint over my white, and you're going to paint all of the backgrounds towards center in this nice lighter color like that. So what's happening is my white is quite bright there, and I'm just getting this transparent look. And I'm going to do that with all of my poppies and try to get to the edge. All right, so I've painted all those in. They're a little bit different here in spots because I didn't have it exactly mixed together, and that's actually a good thing. You want them varied a little bit. So these are going to dry, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, let's continue. We're still going to be using a bit of a watery down color. I'm taking a bit more of the orange this time, less yellow, and I'm making a watery mixture. And what I'm going to do now is I want to create kind of some overlapping. I'm still working on background ones. So let's say, for instance, I want to have a petal that is a little darker right here. So I'm going to overlap and make one side darker. All right, so you can see that this is lighter. Maybe I'd like to have the middle part here darker. Okay, maybe the side one darker. Maybe both sides darker. So what you're starting to do is vary some of these colors in the background. And I'll stay with you and do them here. They don't have to be all the same side. But I'm just taking a bit of the orange, a little more of the orange. It's still transparent, but I'm just getting a different color showing up there. You have two sections, one section could be sides. All right, see what's happening there? You just start to get a little bit of a feeling of more petals. There's another one I missed here. So these are the ones you can see beyond the front petals. All right, they're a little lighter because the sun is, you're hitting the top of them, it's brighter. The ones on this side that are coming forward are going to be a little darker because you're actually looking through two sets of petals. So let's dry this and we'll go on. All right, let's start doing the petals that are forward. I'm going to be taking stronger orange, all right, a little less water. I still got watered down. All right, see that? A little bit watered down. What I want to start doing now is taking a look at the front one. So let's say, for instance, I'm doing this one. I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to paint over right to the edge. And see what's happened here? I've got the petals behind and I've got this nice dark one in front. I'm going to do maybe another one here. Maybe it's the center one. Right down to my center. Maybe this one could be kind of opened up like here. I'm doing one petal on each. I think I'd like this one to be kind of coming off the edge like that. I've darkened up the edge. Let's come up on this side of it. So it's still watered down, but not as much as the background was. I like to go over that right there. Notice I'm always coming up to the edge of the other back one if I'm doing those edges one. All right, let's come dipping down here. So some are more open, some are more closed. So let's do one here. I'm coming off here. I'm going to do down the edge like that. Let's come through on the side here. I think I got them all. Oh, I missed one right there. All right, so you can see how I've started to get a petal in front. All right, I'm going to dry that up and then I'm going to show you the next step. All right, next thing I'm going to do, I've kind of started a couple here. I'm going to introduce a little bit of red. I want to come on the side that is toward the back here, and I want to just darken up a little bit of those sides. And this one you might have two sides like this because we're going to have overlapping. I'm going to darken up here just a little red. This is going to be a shadow color. And before they dry, you can almost treat it like watercolor. Kind of blend in your sides. So do 2 or 3 of them and then come back and blend them in. So the acrylic is kind of nice. It kind of acts like watercolor sometimes if you get it before it blends in or dries. I'm going to darken up here, and there's a reason for this, and you'll understand after I do it. Okay, I'm going to darken up the edge there. Clean my brush, and I'm going to just blend that in a bit. Oh, a spot where it wasn't quite dry enough, but that's okay. Take a bit of red. So I'll come to the one in front. Both sides there, both sides, and I'm going to, before they dry, take a bit of water and blend those in. All right, I'm just going to come back here with a little bit of my mixture here because I kind of lost, because the spot wasn't dry. I'm just going to cover that up a bit. It doesn't want to cover. That's okay. All right, let's let that dry. All right, now that I've got this dark part here, I can actually start overlapping the other side of the petals. So I'm taking orange again, not as, it's kind of the same orange I had here, a little bit watery, but not as watery as here. And I can now start going over the edge on the other petal, and you can see how it's kind of transparent in there. You can see the other one behind. All right, so I'm going to do this one. And this one I'm going to do both sides because I put my first one in the center. So I'm going to come over that. So every one of my flowers is different. I come over both sides here. I'm coming in. This creates the shadow there. I'm going to come up through the center in this one. So you can see the petal going over. This one is coming over there. And my last one here. All right. Oh, I do have one more right here. All right, so I have created some overlapping, some light in the background, darks on this side. All right, there's still some finishing touches. We'll come back when it's dry. All right, there's a few touch-ups I'd like to do. I want to take a bit of the combination of the orange and red, just a little bit darker like that. Again, watered down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the bottom of some of these, the bottoms of all of my poppies. So it just looks like there's a shadow on the bottom. Not very much. And a few of the sides I can get as well. I'm hardly putting anything on there. especially if there's places where I've actually got some of the brightness coming through. I just want to kind of darken up some of my sides. Now, understand this has been a really quick tutorial, so you could take a lot more time to do this. A bit darker there. All right. So you can see now you basically have your poppy. I could, if I wanted to, add a lot more detail. I could come in and actually do like shading, darker shading against edges, for instance, like right in here with my red. See, I'm going to actually do that. And I'm going to treat it like almost like a watercolor, and I can blend it out. Okay, just kind of defines it a bit more. Let's do a couple of those like that. So this one came over here, so I'm going to just kind of darken up this edge with a bit of reddish orange. And really, you actually could, if you wanted to, use watercolor instead of the acrylic. But you can see how watered down acrylic really actually works quite nicely. So this is if you want to do a bit more defining. I'm just kind of cleaning my paintbrush in between and watering it down. So you can see the difference between some done like that and some not. That's totally up to you. Now, I do have a couple of flowers here that are kind of in midair. So I think I actually do need to put some stems in, and you could do it with a small little fine brush, or you could use the knife edge of a brush. I'm going to use a knife edge. I'm going to dip into green and yellow like that. So you get a bit of both, and that's going to give me a dirty stroke stem. So I'm going to come down on my knife edge like this, and I'm just going to stroke down. Oops. Okay, dip into green, and it's basically almost like a double load. And I'm going to do a few of those. This one kind of goes this direction. And try to do it once. Got a few there that I just need to kind of get some stems on. I got a little bit of one there. I might want to see a stem there. You wouldn't necessarily even see it going all the way down, because maybe it's going behind some leaves. Let's do a little bit there. All right, so there's a pretty quick tutorial on these California poppies. If you want to do them totally reddish and be more like a regular poppy, but California poppies tend to be, they're like one petal instead of the double layers that we have. All right, so have fun with this. This was a lot of fun. I'm quite pleased with that. It's not totally realistic, and that's not really what I was after. So message me, Messenger on Facebook. Yeah, experiment with this. Have some fun with overlaying colors, using acrylics kind of like watercolor, and with sponging. Have a great day. Bye.